Begin today's session, I'd like to mention that because of unforeseen circumstances, Mr. Kandal, our special guest, would not be able to join us today. He was supposed to introduce us all to web dev and share some industrial insights, but unfortunately, his session has been postponed to a later date. And if you want the Paytm guy only to take the session and no one else, then my sincere apologies, as I will be substituting for Mr. Kandal, but with new and interesting content. So this is a kickoff session. And in this session, we'll learn a lot about some essentials for web dev, not just web dev, but any particular development in general. So, not to add too many slides, but a little about me. My name is Aniket, and I'm the vice president here at WIOS. And just like you guys, I'm also a tech enthusiast. I'll be your instructor for today's kickoff session, and I'll teach you all about Git and GitHub through the essentials for any project. So, we usually learn mundane things time and again in each and every YouTube video we see. I think probably all tech YouTubers have created a video on GitHub, and they'll teach you about the difference between Git and GitHub, the GitHub workflow, and how to use the CLI for GitHub. But in today's session, we'll sum all of them up so that you have all the resources at one place. And not just that, we'll also talk about GitHub Copilot and how to get GitHub Copilot for free. And if you stay by the end of the session, you'll also find two bonus sections which will help you refine your GitHub profile even more. So for all of you who do not know or use GitHub, let's assume that you're editing a code file. Let's call it a draft. So how do you edit it? You edit this file, and let's say that you go into another state. Let's say the text inside the file changes into edit. So what you do in usual development workflows is you hit the Control Z button, and then you undo and shift back to the draft file. And from here, if you hit the Control Y buttons, then you might even go back to the edited file, considering that you haven't changed anything. So undo and redo operations are very common in our workflow. And I'm not saying that even if you are using GitHub, you cannot use undo and redo. We generally do use. But GitHub is basically undo and redo with superpowers. So you keep going through this undo and redo cycle, and you keep doing it many, many times. And finally, you reach the final file state. So this file in yellow is the final file. Now, with GitHub, these states are actually called versions. And the draft would be called the version 1, edited would be version 2, and final would be version 3. Now, looking at this, you might also understand that it's not just 3 versions. You can have as many versions as you want in the middle of version 1, version 2. You can have as many versions in the middle of version 2 and 3, and so on. And you can jump between one version to another. Now, if you want to read the description of Git from the official website, then you can read that as well. But just like I said, Git is basically a tool that tracks changes and lets you revert to any of these changes as and when you wish. So you can create and navigate through different versions like you saw in the previous slide. But the best part of GitHub is that you can collaborate with multiple people. Multiple people can create multiple versions, and you can see all of those versions and manage all of them at one single place. And that's why it makes our code base or the development so much efficient. Now, over time, you will also find people who would prefer doing Control Z over Git. So I would suggest that don't be like those people. Be like me. I use Git because I'm smart, and these people are not smart. So try to use Git. Now, one of the very common questions that fumble most people when it is asked is, what is the difference between Git and GitHub? So before we actually start working with all of this, let's just understand the basics. And I promise this won't take much long. So Git is basically a version control system that is installed locally on your computer. So you can see what kind of changes that you did, what kind of versions you created on your system. But GitHub is an online platform where you host all of these Git repositories so that they can be accessed from anywhere, which is kind of the key point over here. If you publish it online, you can download it from any computer that has access to the internet. Similarly, you can even make your own server with Git if you actually make a Linux server, or in a LAN connection, if you share files, then other computers that are connected to your network can also access your files. But with GitHub, you don't need to be connected physically. You can be connected by internet. Now, GitHub is not the only repository hosting platform. There are many, many options. It just happens to be the popular one. There is GitLab, there is Bitbucket, and so on. And more or less, the features in them, they're more or less the same. And by the end of the day, they're all the same product. And you can use any of them. It's basically upon you. Now, before we actually start using Git and GitHub from the terminal, let's first understand the basics of GitHub workflow. So Git basically divides all of your working, or your code base, into three different sections. The first one is the working directory, let's say. The next one is the stage, and the final one is the local repository. So from the working directory, you first need to tell Git that, yeah, these are the files that I might want to commit later. So you have to push them onto the stage. And how do you do that? By using the git add command. So once your directories, once your working directory gets some changes, Git would know that these files have been changed, and you'll tell Git that please add them to the stage. Now from the stage, you will now commit into the local repository using the git commit command, and you can pass in a message as to what you committed, what change you made, and as soon as you do that, it would be saved in your local repository until that is you want to undo a commit or revert a commit. Not just this, from the local repository, you can also shift back to the working directory by using branching and also merging. So these commands are git checkout and git merge, and we'll also talk about them later on in this session. Now, this is the Git side of it. Coming to the GitHub side of it, we'll see a remote repository. So your local repository, as soon as it's published on GitHub, it becomes your remote repository, this diamond. And this part needs to be always synchronized with the local repository. So just for the sake of syncing, you need to add two more commands. One is uploading your code. So uploading the code can be done with git push. You're just taking the current state of your repository locally in your system and pushing it to the remote. So now it's available online. And the other command is for downloading from the remote repository, which is git pull or git fetch. So as soon as you do this, all the changes in your remote repository, if they were made by someone else, let's say, or some other computer, then you can get all of them onto your system as well seamlessly. Now, finally, the time has come for me to showcase my subpar programming skills and demonstrate Git commands from a terminal. So let me stop sharing for a moment and share my other screen. I hope you can see my screen. So here I have a VS Code for you guys, and I have just made a small directory called my super awesome repo, which has a readme.md file. MD files are nothing but Markdown files, so they are just like a better version of Notepad, let's say. So when you open this in a browser or on GitHub or any version control system, then you'll see that this is highlighted as an H1 tag in HTML, like the biggest headline. And then I can make certain other use some other tags also, and add descriptions, let's say, which would be a little smaller in size and font and all of that. So just for styling purposes, we can use this. Now, coming to this, what I would do first to create a Git repository would be go to the terminal, and over here, I would just do git init. Now, first, before you do all of this, you need to install something. So for this, we also have a cheat sheet for you guys, and you can go to any of these installation sites and download Git according to your system. And after that, you also have to set it up based on these commands, like first name and last name. You have to create a GitHub account for this specific tutorial as well. Now, as soon as I do git init, it should initialize an empty Git repository. Now, you can see that there is nothing else but just the color change over here. But if I open it in the file explorer, I will see a .git file, and it'll have everything, the config, the head, and everything that my Git version control system needs to know what kind of changes have been made so far. So if I do git status now, it's one of the commands that shows you the status of objects. So you can see we are on branch main, and main is basically the default branch. We'll soon talk about branching. There are no commits, there are untracked files, and that untracked file is readme.md. So coming back to the PPT, if I go back, and you'll see that there's a stage, and this stage is basically the tracked section. So if you have anything as untracked, it's basically inside the working directory. So over here, if I want to stage the file, I'll do git add, and you can use the h tag to open up the help commands. So here you can see all of the tags that are available, and usually we use capital A or double hyphen all, or we can also use the small simple command git add space dot. So dot usually means all, and it just gives me a warning based on the formatting. But now it must be on the stage. So how do I see if it's on the stage or no? Again, git status, nothing different. We see the state again. And now you can see it's a little bit different than what we had before. It was saying that we had an untracked file, but now it says that changes are to be committed, means it's not untracked anymore, it's tracked. So it is actually on the stage. And you can see Git also helps us a little bit by telling how do we unstage it from the stage. So from here, we can go back as well. So currently we are on the stage and we need to commit to the local repository. So how do we do this? So it's very simple. We just do git commit, and we do a hyphen m for message, open quotations, and then we write any message. So I'll just say initial, and as soon as I do, it says one file changed, one insertion. Let's go to status again, git status, and see what goes on. We are on branch main, nothing to commit, and the working tree is clean. So if I go to the source control panel in VS Code, thankfully, this is the terminal actually. We'll also see how to use Git from VS Code. Certain shortcuts are there. Uh, it's saying that there are no remotes, means there is no such remote repository because we haven't configured GitHub yet. But there is a local repository which has a branch main, and it has, in fact, one commit called the initial commit. And you can see we can publish this branch, which basically will push it to the origin or the remote. So how do we do that, in fact? So for this, we need to open our GitHub profile. So I'll just open my GitHub profile for now and try to go to a new repository. I have to make a new one. So over here, I'll make a new one with the name that I have given for this particular directory. So it's my super awesome repo. I'll just name it my super awesome repo. And I can choose to make it public or private. You should create a GitHub account, and it will basically work as a portfolio for all your projects. Now, let's not add any README because already we have a README that we have made. We just need to push this up. So I'll just create this repository. And in a few moments, this should appear. Now, you should see everything, the quick setup and everything that you need to do in order to sync your local repository with your remote repository. So how do we do this? In fact, we have two options. Can we create a new repository on the command line? No, we don't need to create one. We already did that. We did git init, we did git add, all of this. We need to push an existing repository from the command line. So I'll just copy this remote, this statement, remote add, and paste it over here and just hit enter. And as soon as I do this, you can see that remotes now has 1, and it says that there is origin. It's not connected, but it's my name slash my super awesome repo. Now the next command would be simply git branch m main and git push -u origin main. So we are already on branch main, so we don't need to do that git branch m main. We can just do git push to origin main. So origin main is basically I'm telling GitHub to push the current code onto the origin, which is the remote repository, and make sure that you push it in the main branch. Now we need to learn a little bit about branching also. So let's see, I did this, and coming back to GitHub, if I refresh the page, I should see my super awesome repo inside readme.md. And like I told you, since there was only one hashtag hash, because of that, it's coming as an h1 tag over here. So you can keep on editing this file to see what stuff goes on. Basically, I can write this is a great repository and save it. And again, I have to follow the same steps, which is git add all, git commit initial, no, not initial commit, updated readme. Always make your commit statements meaningful, and then git push to origin main. And again, the same thing happens. It says that it's writing a few objects. And if I go back, I refresh, this is the new one. So see h1 tag and h2 tag. Okay. Now that we have learned about how to push and how to basically follow through this in one single direction, let's try to go and do something in the other direction. And for this, we need to learn a little more about branching. So what basically is branching? So whenever you make a certain change in the code, you need to be on some kind of branch. Now, whenever you are working with a lot of people, some of your teammates might be working on some branch, some other teammate might be working on some other branch. So at the end of the day, you'll combine all of these branches. So why do we actually work on different branches? It's because we don't want to keep colliding with someone else's work while we are actually working on it. So without like much theory, I'll just tell you how to in fact create a branch. So here I'll make a new branch with git branch, and give it a name called test, branch test. And you can see the output test has appeared over here. And to switch to this branch, we have to use a command called git checkout. So that is git checkout test, the branch name, and it says git switch to branch test. You can also use the git switch command. It's the same. The tick appears over here. Earlier it was at main. So now we're on the test branch. So these branches can run concurrently, and the changes on them can happen regardless of whatever changes you do on this branch, let's say. So after this, let's edit certain files in here. Let's add a file called greeter, or let's say main.py, and let's add another. No, let be this, and we'll print something. This is inside main dot, save it. So if I do git status, it says main is untracked. So I do git add all, and um, I need a minute. I actually have a call, so just give me 2 minutes, and I'll be back in the meeting. Sorry for this. Yeah, I'm back. Really sorry about that. So we have git add dot. So as soon as we do this, we are here. We do git commit. m added mean program. When file has been committed, and then we do git push u origin test. So I'm telling GitHub Git to again push it to the origin, but this time to push it on the test branch. Let's see what goes on. So if I go back to source, I'll see, yeah, the branch test, create a pull request and test and all of this. Uh, if I go back, you can see test had recent pushes less than a minute ago. Refreshing it will show me nothing, because if I switch from here, from main to test, I should now see readme.md and also main.py. So if you want, you can check also what code main.py has. Now, coming to this, we also need to see something that is useful if you want to remove from the stage. So let's say that you, in fact, have a new file called greeter. And you just have this here, greeter, and let's import greeter from here, from greeter, import greet and greet. And let's play it once. So you can see this is inside main.py and hello. So I'll just delete this because of some tests over here. It generates the py linting package generates all of them. Now, coming back to this, let's try to stage these files. You can see there are two changes. One is a new creation, and one is a main.py. So I'll try to go for like git status, and this is modified, and there is an unpacked file called creator.py. So if I do git add all, and let's say if I do git status again, I'll see the new and modified files. Both of them have been staged and they're ready to be committed. But now, what if I want to change it again? So, or I don't want to push main.py. I just want to push creator.py as a library. Let's say I'll use it later in some other program. So I don't want to stage this. So can I revert something? Can I reset? One moment, please. Yes. So git yeah, like I was saying, can I reset? So git reset, and I can mention the name of the file. So if I don't mention the name of the files, I can reset directly all the files from the stage directly to the working directory. So I'll just do git reset greeter.py or maybe main.py, main.py, and say unstaged changes after reset. So if I do a git status now, you should see that there are changes to be committed. There's a new file and changes not staged for commit, which is the modified main.py. So if I commit it now, you can understand that it's only going to commit this and not this main.py, because we just unstaged it back to the working directory. So coming back to this, if I do git commit m added greeting library, enter, and git push q origin test. Going back to GitHub, we should see in the test branch itself, a new file has appeared, which is called greeter.py, and it has all the code that we have put it in fact. Uh, we have main.py, similar to what we had before, because we did not stage it and we did not commit it. So that was all about uh, the GitHub commands. And if you want more commands, then we actually have a GitHub cheat sheet ready for you. And I would like to show it to all of you. So this is the GitHub cheat sheet, which with all of the installation steps, the setup steps, and this we use right now. We can also use git clone to retrieve an entire repository. You may be able to see it in the initial like GitHub setup when we were copying a few commands from GitHub to the terminal. We have git status, we git reset, and most of these are very, very, I don't want to say not useful, but rarely used. We have git rm, git stash, and all of this. So stash is another section of GitHub where you can actually commit temporarily and then keep on working on something else. So I don't expect you. I don't want to talk about this in this session. We are going to have another session on GitHub, which would be more advanced, which would deal with making pull requests and resolving merge conflicts and all of that. Over there, we shall talk about a lot of these codes or commands, also the diff commands and stuff written over here. Now, if you want this PDF, this would be shared to you, all the participants and followers of LTS, as soon as the session ends. And a special thanks to Chirag Jain, the technical lead of Women in Open Source, for creating this PDF. Now, if you're lazy, because I know you are, and I am too, and I expect you to not spend too much time in the terminal rather than coding. So, thus, after gaining proficiency with the terminal and all the GitHub commands, you could use the shortcuts in your preferred IDE. So, like I was using VS Code, let's try to go back and see how can these shortcuts be used. So from this point onwards, I'll just do a CLS and close the terminal. I don't want to open it again. Going to the source control page, even in Android Studio or IntelliJ IDEA, you'll have a source control page which would not look much different. It will have the same functionality. And currently, you can see we're on the test branch. You can see so many buttons over here. And if I go and press this button, I'll simply switch to the main branch. So there are changes to be committed. Let's add a new commit statement, and let's do the simplest of the git commands, which is the commit. So remember the git command, which was git commit m and message. We'll do it now with a few clicks. So we have main.py. I'll just write a commit called um, utilized greeting library, and I'll do a commit. As soon as I do this, you can see it turns green. When it turns green with the dot over here, it means that it needs to go. It needs to be pushed onto the remote repository. Currently, I have made the changes on the local repository. And if I go over here, I can either like upload the code by doing a right click and then pushing it, or I can just do sync changes. As soon as I do sync changes, this becomes white again, and it's not green anymore, means it's up to date with the remote. Let's go back to the remote to just check what happened. And main.py now has a new commit message, which is utilized greeting library. And it in fact has the greet and the greeter commits. Yes. So that was the commit message. And you don't necessarily need to do a stage operation, but if you, in fact, if you want to do that, so let's say this is inside main.py, and this line is new. If I do a save, I can go back and I can do a plus, which is stage all changes, or I can go to any of these files and stage them individually. So all of this, it was done automatically when we were using the git commit in here in VS Code. It takes care of all of that for us automatically. We don't have to worry about staging first and then committing. But if you want to do that as well, you can. You can stage all of them. And then with the minus button, you can unstage changes. And similarly, if you have too many files that have changed, so let's say that this print hello there and print 1 plus 2. I changed this file. And I also changed this file. I have three different changes, three different modifications, but I want to commit them one by one. So what can I do? I can just do state changes for one particular file, which is greeter.py. And what is this? It's print 1 plus 2, printed numbers, print numbers. We usually do not commit such small changes. If they are not crucial, we don't, we wait for a few more changes to commit. So commit, and you can see only one file went up. And if I open this, you can see that one commit is yet to be pushed onto the remote, and it has a print num, the description that we gave. And similarly, we can commit both of these files as well. So just checking multiple steps commit. And now there are two different commits. Only one of them has greeter.py and the other one has main and readme, even though we changed them all at the same time. I'll just sync changes of two commits, and back in GitHub, I should see the newer versions or the newer commits. So you can see the newer commits, just checking multiple stages, and greeter.py has the description print now. Likewise, you can also create branches over here by doing some demo. Rather, I misspelled it, sorry. Demo and create branch and switch. Both of these commands can be clubbed together, which is very useful sometimes. And you can see it's green again, meaning it needs to be pushed. It needs to be published onto the remote repository. So we need to push this by hitting the publish branch over here. And you can see this up arrow also. And by hovering, you can also find out the description or what GitHub wants you to do, basically. And this was pretty much it. You can even disconnect from remote, but all of this we don't want to discuss at this moment. We learned how to commit, we learned how to stage, unstage, we can even revert commits. So let's say that I have this main.py, I want to greet again. And let's say that this was a useless commit. I can go over here and actually do this undo commit button. And after this, you can see it appears directly on the stage. So it actually did not commit that to the demo branch. It staged it instead. I can do a minus and can keep working on it again and again. And when I'm satisfied with it, when I think that it's not useless, in fact, I can then stage and then push my commit. We learned how to switch branches, which is very simple by using this. And we also learned how to create new branches by using the plus icon, and also via the terminal. Now coming to a great tool, in fact. So before ChatGPT and the OpenAI humdrum, developers actually secretly use some AI tools. So one of these AI tools was GitHub Copilot. So I'll just open this website for you, which is the GitHub Copilot landing page. And you can see the power of Copilot, how useful it might be. So with a few comments, you can actually generate test cases, you can generate a web service and multiple files. It has been trained on billions of lines of code. And of course, it functions better as well. And according to many surveys, compared to ChatGPT code, GitHub Copilot code is likely to run or compile without throwing errors. So error-free code. But the problem is that you need to pay $10 for this. So it's good, I know, but obviously you might be thinking, how do you get it for free? Because I don't want to pay $10 for it. That's 810 rupees. And I can get 3 pizzas from Food Street for that money. So what I would do is go to the GitHub student developer pack. So all you need to do is just search for GitHub student developer pack and go to the first link, which is GitHub Education. And here it comes. It's very bright, light mode. We have GitHub Student Developer Pack, which gives you so much. And it's like, it will give you GitHub Pro as long as you are a student. And it'll give you the Copilot access and so many things over here. You can check out all the features, like 100 different features: DigitalOcean access, Namecheap, your domain name registration, and all of this. And you can get all of this for free. And like in my profile, you can see that I have this pro tag. I never paid for GitHub, but I still have this pro tag because I am a student and I'm part of the student developer program. So how do you, in fact, utilize this opportunity? Just go over here to the I mean, where did it go? I'll copy this and open it in incognito mode because I don't want to be signed in. And over here, just sign up for the student developer pack. It'll ask you to sign up with your GitHub account, and you'll have to enter your email address, your VIT-AP email address, go to students, and it'll ask you for a picture of your ID card, your college ID card, and a picture of your face just to match it. So you'll have to open your webcam for 30 seconds or something and show a picture of your ID card and push it online to GitHub Forms. And as soon as you do that, you should be able to access your GitHub Pro account. And you'll also get a Pro tag like I have in my account. And you'll be able to access Copilot. So if I show you the power of Copilot, I disable this. So I can re-enable it, activate Copilot, enable globally. And let's say that I add a comment over here. So create function. Okay, sorry, Copilot is not enabled at the moment. Yes, create a function that finds the radius Earth from its circumference. From its well, it'll be circumference only. I don't have any other demonstration in my mind right now. So you can see that it gives you multiple options and code completion right out of the box inside your IDE. All you need to do is just to enable an extension called GitHub Copilot and log in, and you'll get this icon over here. And then you can just have circumference, everything all over. So create a function R as well and define radius and everything. I'm just hitting tabs and nothing else. See, it even generates documentation for me. And it's very useful, in fact, if you are writing a piece of code and you want some comments to be written, right, like, or some documentation to be written right after you finish writing the code, it generates all of that for you automatically. So I know people would refrain from using GitHub Copilot because now everyone is learning and we must also want to test our skills. And using GitHub Copilot seems like cheating, but it's much better when you're actually working on something new and there is very little documentation for it. And GitHub Copilot actually has access to all of the code written on public repositories on GitHub, and it can help you out a little or guide you through developing that piece of software. So I would suggest that you can use GitHub Copilot. And for GitHub Copilot, how do you get it for free? You just register for the GitHub Student Developer Pack. And as soon as you register for the Student Developer Pack, we would love to hear from you. Please text us on WhatsApp or tag WIOS and MSC on Instagram, showing off your new GitHub Pro tag on the profile. And finally, we have come to the last two topics of our session today. And I would like to show you how GitHub has a few secrets inside. And you see this repository. So this account over here, this is my account, and I don't have any README over here. I just have a few of my repositories. And then over here also in Web and open source, we don't have much. We just really started with the website and all of this. So there aren't many repositories. There isn't even a README file. So it's very hard to know something. We are hosting our website on some other platform, but can we make it more? Can we make it more streamlined? Yes, we can. So let's try to create a new repository, and I'll show you two interesting things. So if I go to WIOSC, this organization, I can just put in WIOSC. Okay, so for organizations, that's not for WIOS team. Put it 123, and you'll see GitHub. The mascot will pop up, and it'll say this is a special repository, and you can add a README file to it, and it'll showcase whenever someone opens your GitHub profile. So I'll make it public. I'll add a README file to it, and I'll create this repository. So in a moment, this should appear, and this is the README. So when I go to WIOS team 123, you see the same README comes up over here as well. So you can make this like an entire website, and you can add everything that you want, every hobby and whatnot, and all of this would appear. So the trick to do that is simply creating a repository with the same name as your username. There is another trick, which is another special repository for you guys. So if you use the name and then .github.io, then you can publish your own HTML website, your own portfolio website, if it's static, onto GitHub servers, and it'll be available, and you can share it to people. Even I have a website that is hosted on github.io because I didn't want to buy a domain. So let me add a README and show you how that is done. So remember this name. Don't change it to something else. You can even do that, but then the URL would be very malformed. So creating repository, and in a moment you'll see that this is the content of the README file. Now going on to settings, I can go to pages over here in settings, and then choose deploy from a branch and then main. So GitHub Pages is ready to deploy, and you have to select main and then root. You can even select docs or whatever branch that you want to have. And if I go to actions now, I'll see key pages is actually being built and deployed. So clicking on it will show me what exactly has been done. So it's built currently, and it's reporting the build status, and then it'll deploy. So in a few moments, you'll see that it'll finally deploy it as well. And then I'll show you how the website actually looks. So deploy job is complete. So if I go to code, I should now see that, yeah, in deployments, GitHub pages, now it was deployed. So I'll just copy the name of this repository. Where this, and go to this over here. And you can see this is actually a URL. So it's HTTPS and then github.io URL, and it shows the README MD file. So you can actually have an HTML file as well, JavaScript, and all of your CSS, and that will appear over here. Even I have my portfolio website, which I think it should be here. This is the website that I have, and it is running JavaScript as well. So I forgot where I was. Yeah, repositories, this thing. So you can see the JavaScript JS files. I'm a big fan of Flutter, so I made it with Flutter. And we have JS over here, and all the icons and everything. And it appears over here as my static website. So I can push all of my ideas over here and showcase all of the things that I've built. And similarly, you can do it as well, just by adding .github.io to your username and creating this special repository. So now, since we have come to a conclusion, I would ask you, if you have any question, please throw them at me, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. Okay, let's open chat. Yes. Any questions?
I guess there's one at the bottom.
Okay. Join WS. Yeah, that you can do, but this isn't exactly focused on recruitment for WIOS. But on a side note, yeah, you can join, because a lot of people are from different departments in our club, and yeah, it is not necessary to have designing skills. Any other question?
I think that's pretty much about it from everybody's side.
Okay, so now that we have reached the end, I would like to give a huge, huge, huge thanks to all of you who stayed till the end and who did not sleep off, actually. And a huge thank you for being here and supporting us. And we will keep bringing a lot of quality content for you. This was a pretty basic and the first like beginning session for all of our LTS content, and it was very easy to follow also. But as we keep progressing, we will increase the intensity of our sessions. So upcoming session would be HTML, CS, and JavaScript, and sooner or later we'll also start with React and Node.js. Uh, if you can stay back for 2 minutes, our president would like to address the participants.
Thanks, Aniket, and thanks for such a great and enriching session. You can stop presenting. Yeah, thank you. All right, guys. I hope that you all have benefited out of this session and are excited to join our upcoming sessions for the entire Learning Track series. As discussed by Aniket, we'll be having the upcoming session about HTML, CSS. Soon we'll be talking about JS and Bootstrap, Node.js, and whatnot, right? And in the middle of that, we have the pre-grad session that which was supposed to happen today, but as discussed, due to unforeseen circumstances, it had to be postponed to a later date. Now, since we are starting with the learning track series and we don't want that anybody misses out because of uh, well, the fact that they feel like this particular timing is not suitable, we have created a form that you guys can fill up right now, and I've shared that link over the chat, and this will also be shared to you over a mail pretty soon. We are planning to do the LTS, that is the Learning Track series, on either Saturdays and Sundays or Sundays and Mondays, since that's when we all have a weekend, right? So please fill up this form. It has two sections. One is where you can select the days, that is Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday, Monday, whatever you feel is all right for you guys. And also the timings for the sessions, and we have provided like around three options for the same. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much about it. All the further information regarding this entire LTS would be shared to you over email pretty soon. And yeah, make sure that you join the upcoming sessions as well because you're going to get interesting content just like you got today. All right. So that's pretty much about it from my side. Now, if at all you guys have anything to say or ask, you can go ahead. And also, don't forget that we'll be updating all the basically we'll be sharing all the updates regarding the LTS over our socials as well. So make sure to have a look at our instas, that is for MSC and WIOS both. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. Hoping to get as many responses as possible so that we can make it a cohesive learning platform for all of you. And don't worry, we'll be providing you all with the recording for this session and even the upcoming sessions. Will also be uploaded on YouTube for your reference and be shared via Google Drive. We'll send you a Google Drive link for all the recordings. All right. Cool then. That's about it. Hope to see you all in the coming sessions. All right. Bye, guys. You can all leave now. Thank you so much.